All right, good afternoon, everybody. I call this meeting to order at 3:01 p.m. Thank you, everybody, for being with us as always in this, particularly in this hybrid meeting. I have in the room with me Amy and Daryl, taking advantage of the wonderful hospitality of Colorado NINA APCO conference, taking advantage of the ability to use their space this afternoon. So thank you very much for that to Colorado NINA APCO chapter. First up for us, I do this. First up for us today is the discussion and approval of minutes of our regular meeting on April 1st and our special meeting of April 17th. So we'll start with April 1st. Are there any comments, changes, issues with the draft minutes of April 1st? Hearing and seeing none, can I get a motion to approve?
I'll make that motion.
Amy makes that motion. Is there a second?
Matt seconds.
Thank you, Matt. Any further discussion? Hearing none, are there any objections to the draft of the minutes of April 1st? Hearing none, those are adopted. Now to the special meeting of April 17th. Any comments from that draft minutes? Without any comments, are there any motions?
Matt so moves.
Happy to.
Matt so moves. Thank you.
Second.
Amy seconds. Any additional discussion? Hearing none, are there any opposed to accepting and approving the minutes of the special meeting of April 17th? Hearing none, those minutes are approved. Thank you. Next up is public comments. Public comments are limited to up to 15 minutes total, and each member of the public may speak for up to 3 minutes on any topic relevant to the purposes of the enterprise. If any member of the public would like to speak, please indicate so now by raising your hand in Zoom to be called upon. After we address any in-person comments, seeing nobody in person, and then any raised hands in Zoom, we will then call for any additional comments from members of the public who have dialed in or are not otherwise able to indicate so in Zoom. Are there any public comments? Seeing no hands in Zoom, is there anybody who is unable to raise their hand in Zoom who would like to unmute and state their name? Hearing none, public comment is closed. All right, next up, funding, grant application form, and budget template. Who shall we go to first? Shall we talk about funding first, Daryl?
Oh. Yes, I just need, you've got a,
Speak into that, sir.
I didn't realize you had a speaker there. I do not have updated numbers for the budget since I've been here at the conference for the last 2 days, or for the cash fund, I should say. I do know that Roca just deposited their April collections. So I should have something for you that I can send out fairly soon. And I think just as a matter of course, I think I'll start sending those out to the whole board as I get those every month.
That would be, I know I would appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay.
Just checking, make sure everybody could hear him. The speaker, the microphone is working.
Yes, thanks.
Excellent. All right, the grant application form. So we have the draft that Sage sent out last on April 2nd, I think it was. Did everybody have a chance to look at that? Any additional comments, concerns, direction? Everybody's good with that?
No concerns.
Excellent. I'm getting a head nod from Amy, so we're good in the room here. All
I'm
right,
good.
budget.
Thanks.
All right, budget template. I think this was the last piece that we were going to be discussing. Daryl, did you want to share or?
Yeah, I can do that. Sage, can you give me sharing capability?
Yes, just a moment here. There you go.
And just to clarify for everyone, I think we're talking about a template for a budget for people to submit along with their grant proposal, correct?
That is my understanding, yes.
Okay, good, because that's what I worked on. I actually went out to NASNA because I know a number of 911 programs in other states have grant programs and got copies of their grant budget templates. I didn't really think most of them really fit our needs. So what I ended up doing was taking a copy of the budget that the Resource Center submits to the 988 program every month for their 988 for their reimbursement of 988 related activity, and made some major modifications and simplifications. There's two tabs on this. The first tab is just a cover page where the applicant would put in a name for the project. They would type in the name of the agency that's making the request and then fill in a description of the project. These items down here, equipment costs, services, training, all of that automatically fills in from the second tab. And they would also need to put in the name of the person preparing the budget, phone number, and email address. Then on the second tab is and we'll change the name. It shouldn't be invoice, it should be budget worksheet. But what I did here is I broke out the categories by the major categories that are allowed under the statute for the expenditure of 911 funds. So equipment costs, services, training, personnel costs, indirect costs, and administrative costs. And if there's any other categories that we would like to add, that's very easy to add to this template. I didn't fill in equipment name, or you can see under services, it's type of service and the description, but normally that would be filled in. I did put in numbers just to make sure that the calculations all worked, and they appear to do so. So under equipment, just for instance, I've got a piece of equipment that costs $300 and we're requesting 50 of them. I don't know what that would be, but just as an example, that comes out to $15,000, and that total equipment cost of $15,000 carries over back to the cover page, so you can see it right here. So it automatically calculates all of the total of what they're asking for. Again, if the board would like additional categories added to this worksheet, we can do that. And you are not required to use this. It's just something that I put together based on what I had available to me. Anybody has?
Daryl? Yeah, I just have one thought when you mentioned it. I don't know if it would be more helpful or harmful to us or not, but is it worth having just an other category if there are things they've identified, they're not sure if it fits into one of those categories, but it's part of what they're seeking money for, and then we'd have to figure out if it was appropriate or not. I'm wondering if it would be good to have a catch-all category.
I think that would be fine. I could just add it right here at the end under indirect costs and administrative costs. We can say other/miscellaneous, and then just have them explain what it is. And just add a note to myself.
On the cover page, I think it might also be good to somehow call out that computational area with a different color or a note,
Yep.
something along the lines of, don't touch this, it's being autofilled.
And we can even lock down the cells so that the only cells they can edit are the ones that we want them to edit.
Perfect.
Any other thoughts? Cool. Well, I will make those changes and we'll have it available. This isn't set in stone, so if board decides they want to do something different later, they can. It's a place for you.
Helpful, Daryl. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion items we want to talk around the funding grant application? I think the only other question for me would be, when do we want to make this live? Do we want to start soliciting now, or essentially now, once we have? I suppose we would want the final, so probably, do we have anything else before maybe our June 3rd meeting to button up and make sure that we're all ready before we go live? And is June 3rd sufficient time to be ready for that and give the go ahead? Thoughts on that? Is that a sufficient goal?
I think it's a good goal. It- Yeah. It would be nice in the, to be able to say in the financial report that we've gotten that far, as, so we have that, ready to go, so they understand this is all not just dragging out and really moving along, and why we don't yet have a lot of precise projections for financials.
I like it. So we'll have it on our June 3rd meeting, and that will be our target goal.
This is Daryl. I'll add that at least one person has asked Michael today when that's going to be available. So good to have a date in mind.
There is an interest. All right. That brings us to our contract with the Colorado 911 Resource Center. So let me share my screen. And I will apologize ahead of time. We had discussed some changes at our meetings in, I believe, December and January around the scope of work document that didn't get updated into the draft from the state. So I have made some of those in my notes here. Happy to kick us off starting at the first page. So one of the things we talked about last month and is reflected on this is the timing of it. So, we're looking at May 1st, June 1st, whatever we can have as our effective date, and when that would go through, whether that's through the end of this year, if we can make it kind of a year and a half at the end of 27. I like the idea of getting it through December of 2027, get us, get that year and a half, get us moving on it. My only concern with that would be the same reason it was delayed the first time, or not delayed, it's not the right word, but the timing of it was having the money in the bank, so to speak, to sign the contract. If we are going through December of 2027, what is that actual total? If we're looking at 200,000 a year, are we still looking at 200 for 26? That would be another 200 for 27, with or without that 50 kind of conditional availability. Now we're looking at 450, 500,000 as the total potential of this contract by having it through December of 2027. Am I thinking of that wrong?
Was the 200? I guess, I don't know the resource center's needs enough, but that was anticipated to be a yearly amount. What, since we're taking 200,000 for half the year, or a little over half the year. Would it still be 200,000, or is it anticipated it might be a little less money this year and more next year? I only care
The
because I
dates
think
that
the
are-
amounts are fine for purposes of the financial report.
Yeah, Lynn, just to clarify, the dates on here are actually for over a year because they go all the way to the end of 2027.
Right. So the initial $200,000 that's allocated plus the potential 50, was that anticipated to be used in 2026 completely, or to span into 2027?
It was meant for 1 year's worth.
So May to end of April.
I mean, our original discussion having taken place some time ago, I think the original idea was calendar year, 200,000 per calendar year, so 206, 207. But that's obviously, some timing has changed in that. Matt, your hand is raised.
A question first and then a point. Isn't our fiscal year, the calendar year, partly to be in sync with the resource center's fiscal/calendar year? Wasn't that part of our discussion?
I don't remember that as being a factor.
Okay.
It could be, and maybe I'm misremembering that. I think our idea was more about the surcharge year.
Yes. Yes. Okay. And the resource center's fiscal year is the calendar year, though, right? Okay. I see the head nod. Thanks, Daryl. I feeling like a prorated contract for the rest of 2026, since our revenues started coming in later than January 1st, and we keep it clean calendar year to calendar year to calendar year with different contracts or contract extensions.
So then based on that, obviously assuming the resource center is okay with that, we'd be looking at roughly, just to make the math easier, I guess July 1st would be 100,000 if we're prorating that way. Don't want to do the math at the moment. So we're looking at, we'll say, even if we say 150 to go back a little into the full 3 quarters, which would have been from April 1st, you're looking at plus the 200. So say in the 325 to 350 range. And then depending on how we do that 50,000 contingency line, now you're looking at 375 to 400, give or take.
Well, actually, I was just thinking a contract for 26.
Oh, just instead of doing December of 27, keep it in.
Yep.
And then
And then
at
prorate on the
that,
200,000. So if it was originally 200,000 and we do it for 6 months, just as an example, then it would be 100,000 for that year. I'm not opposed to giving more to support the mission of the resource center. I'm sitting here thinking about a clean way to do this with respect to our revenues being lower than anticipated and starting later.
I'd be curious about whether or not our revenues will be lower because we did expect a prorated year as far as the revenue side. But without, a couple more months probably to understand and get over that.
I think in my document, I actually figured out, and I want to say, I can't remember the total amount. I want to say it was 1.5 instead of 1.8. if I used kind of the average run rate that's going right now for collections. And I do have that in the financial report draft. But I want to say it ended up for the year being around 1.5 instead of 1.8.
Daryl, your hand is raised.
So this kind of goes into the financial reporting part that Lynn's going to talk about later, in that the state really wants us to use the state fiscal year for our own reporting. And I'm wondering if it might not be better to match this contract to the state fiscal year as well. Obviously, it's too late to start on May 1st, which is what it says right now. We could start on June 1st and then go all the way through June 30th of 2027. And then from that point on, we would be in sync with the state fiscal year, which might make things easier for Lynn or whoever the treasurer is in preparing the report to the legislature on the budget.
So with that being the case, should we also change the enterprise's fiscal year from what we decided previously?
Well, Lynn and I had a conversation with the DORA controller, and he really was kind of pushing us in the direction of using the state fiscal year. Lynn, I don't know if you got the same out of that
Yeah,
meeting.
no, I think it just in terms of records and these kinds of things, I think it makes it easier. I'm not, yeah.
So as I was rereading the bill that created the enterprise this morning, I came away with the same feeling that the assumption of the bill drafters was that we would be using the same fiscal year as the state.
So this June 30th fiscal report would be our year-end fiscal report, essentially. It's a part of our discussion had been that we're also looking at the September state of the 911 report. We're looking at the October surcharge rate. So it would be a scramble in the beginning of our year to meet those very early timelines. Are you thinking, I am not opposed to one way or another. I'm just trying to think out through the ramifications. We also have our board positions currently in our bylaws, our calendar year. So we probably want to reassess that if we're switching to a state fiscal year.
This is Daryl, and it would take legislation to change these things, but I think, one thing to consider is maybe in the future, if we have the opportunity, change the surcharge start date from January 1st to July 1st, and then just put everything on the same state fiscal year, including your terms, as you just mentioned.
So that effectively means the annual report has to be delivered right at the end of a given fiscal year.
Correct.
So it would be a time crunch at the very end of the fiscal year to gather data, generate the report.
The reports due anyways June 30th, right?
Mhm.
No matter what. Right? We're talking about the same report, Matt?
Yeah, I'm just thinking of
It's statutorily
the-
June 30th, so that won't change our date on us. How
No, I'm
much
thinking about the data availability for the report.
to put in it.
We're essentially doing
Yeah.
a report before the annual cycle has ended in that scenario.
I think, and we'll see when we go through it, but I think it might just kind of shift what you do and don't know into a bucket of the current year and future year, and whether you list it as, kind of projected or actual.
Mhm.
And I think we run into that problem no matter almost no matter what happens. Maybe we'd catch up if after the first year if it was on an annual basis, but
I guess, and I'm not opposed to that. I'm thinking about it. in terms of some suggestions I was going to make for the reporting.
For the, okay.
Prior year, if you will, prior year actuals, current year projected by end of year, next following year proposed, sort of following the requirements that we have in government budgeting. When we adopt a budget and file it with the state, we have to show prior year actuals, current year projected, following year proposed. Well, proposed and adopted, if you will. I don't know that we have to follow that, but I kind of like that 3-year succession, giving us the reader a sense of what we really did with our actuals from the prior cycle.
Mhm.
Just to make sure I understand, we're talking about July 1st of this year to June 30th next
For the fiscal year.
year. Yes, July 1st of 26 to June 30th.
Correct. I suppose, with that, do we need to table this, adjust the agenda, and talk about the fiscal report before we talk about this contract? Or do we want to continue talking about the contract?
Can we get through the rest of the contract? Or is it also date related if on any of the other items?
That, I would
Maybe
say,
get-
that's my biggest question about the date. But if we can say now that if we can propose now that we are probably more than likely going to a state fiscal calendar, and we can other adjustments as we discuss those other things that rely on calendar, but in the context of the contract, using those dates, those were my only concerns around dates.
If we have consensus today, even if we don't take action on it, if we have consensus that we're going to switch to the state fiscal year, I would suggest that we change this contract to match that and keep going through the contract.
With that, should it be July 1st, or is this first one 13 months and then subsequent, 13 if we can get it done in time, and subsequent are matched to the fiscal year?
Is there a need by the Resource Center before July 1st? Or do we know if they're financially okay?
This is Daryl. Jennifer's on here, I believe, who is the treasurer of the Resource Center now, but I think she's driving. I'll tell you that from my knowledge of the Resource Center funding, they have enough funds to continue operating as they are. They likely won't go through the effort of changing the executive director position to a full-time position until they have the funding secured. So the only difference that June versus July might be, when they start doing their either their search or their changing of the existing position for a full-time executive director.
Myself.
Thank you, Jennifer. But for me to take something back to the DORA contracting officer, I think it might be beneficial to go through the rest of the contract now and see what other changes there are. And then I can talk to them about the date change as well, if the board is comfortable with that.
Any objections? Shall we continue?
I do have one quick question though. If we're not going to have another meeting before June 1st, I'll save my question, so. What's so then? My answer is all.
There was this question about, is Daryl the treasurer? Daryl, I don't know if you know the background of that. If obviously we don't have one, is that
No, they're talking about the treasurer for the resource center. And I was the treasurer, so I'm still, and apparently I'm still listed as the treasurer in the state's accounting system. So I just need to get them to change that to Jennifer. So I can be the principal representative for the state, basically the contract manager on behalf of the state for this contract. I did have a couple of changes here, so my title isn't quite right, so I was going to have them update that title. It's Telecom Programs Section Chief. And the same thing for Connie's title. Her title is Executive Director, not just Director.
And I did have a question about that, if it would be Connie as the representative and whether or not she would be the one signing versus, for instance, Jeff as the president. And I don't know if that's a question more for the resource center than it is for.
I think that might be more of a question for the resource center. Whoever they want to be their representative signing it should be fine. So if they want it to be Connie, that's okay. If they want it to be Jeff, then we can just change that in the contract. So I'll make a note that we can, I'll reach out to Jeff and see what his preference is.
Right. And then the only other question I had was on that second state or contractor signature. We have Connie or Jeff, Patty Salazar. Should we have somebody from the 911 Services Enterprise, whether that's a member of the board, whether that's Daryl as the contract manager, should there be that third signature there?
I guess I assumed that since it says NA, their intent was not needed, and it's just part of their boilerplate structure for a contract.
This is Daryl. I can talk to the contract manager and see if there would be a problem with adding a line for, say, the enterprise board president or chair, I should say. I don't think there would be a problem with that.
Any other comments on pages 1 or 2, the cover page and signature page? Hearing none. Next 3 through 33 are all essentially the state template, definitions, terms. I don't have any comments on any of this. Does anybody else?
I had one thought, and I don't know if it's necessary or not, but I know I caught myself when I was doing my document. Do we need Kirsten to read through this and make sure everything comports okay with the enterprise and how it's defined and what they cite, and if there's anything that could potentially be not in sync?
Sure, I can do that.
I wouldn't expect there to be, but
I mean, I did an initial review and nothing popped out at me.
okay.
But I can look closer.
Okay. Yeah, if you're good. I just wanted to make sure we kind of had it reviewed from our legal side.
That comment, since we are using state fiscal. Scrolling through looking for any other comments from anybody here. All right, and that takes us to Exhibit A, the statement of work. So I incorporated those changes we had talked about in December and January to update the language in the opening paragraph here. We will need to change these sections. Fiscal year. That will no longer apply. All right, so then we're changing to the fiscal year and the effective dates. We'll have to look at these due dates. So I suppose the question comes back to effective date. When is a reasonable and probable effective date? Do we need to change our initial payments here versus subsequent payments to make those July 1st? Or I guess July 31st if we're still following that same methodology of the end of the first month.
Since we're looking at potentially a June 1 starting date, I think that first payment of June 30th, 2026 is still reasonable. I think that can be accomplished. I guess the question is, when do you want to make the second payment? It really can be at any time in the fiscal year, really.
I mean, part of that concern when we initially started talking about this was when the money was going to be coming into the enterprise fund, and with the thought that there wouldn't be initially, and we'd be kind of paying out as it came in. Now that we couldn't contract until we had the money, do we even split it up? Is there a reason to split up the payments this way?
I think that's a good point. You could just make one single payment of 200,000 right at the top of the year.
Fiscal year.
Yes. And by the way, that line, 200,000 for the 2020, that would actually be 2027 fiscal year.
One of the reasons I dislike fiscal years is that I never know which year it is.
Would there be any reason to think we wouldn't have 200,000 by say, if we put it at July?
No, because we've got it in there now.
We can't enter the contract without it.
Right.
So if July 1st is the start of the 2027 fiscal year, we wouldn't be paying it ahead of that, right?
So if we were to do, say, just 27 fiscal year due by July 31st.
Okay.
I think that would work.
We can still go under contract before July 31st.
Yes.
Okay.
All right. Any questions or concerns there? All right, and then there was the added section about submitting invoices for that additional potential 50,000. I did have a question in the funding paragraph here. It kind of goes through the background and some of the kind of history and building of the 911 enterprise, services enterprise. Is there a reason for that?
So I have, because I was working on my own copy that you did not have a copy of, I've made some changes to this section for your consideration. Essentially, I deleted this entire paragraph starting with 911 centers in Colorado. The contract officer included language that really describes the emergency telephone charge, which as enterprise is funded.
I think
So
I
I
sent the
deleted
same
it.
questions to Daryl also.
Yes. So I deleted that entire paragraph, and what I was, the paragraph I had proposed to replace it, I'll just read it to you, or I can put it up on the screen, whichever you want. Funding for this contract is obtained from the 911 enterprise fee authorized pursuant to section 29-11-108A CRS. The rate of the enterprise fee is set annually by the enterprise. The enterprise fee is collected by the Colorado Public Utilities Commission and deposited in the 911 Services Enterprise Cash Fund. Funds in the 911 Services Enterprise Cash Fund are expended as directed by the enterprise. So it's just a much simpler explanation of where the funding is coming from and who gets to say how the funding is spent.
Michael, your CAD typing fingers are fast, but not that fast.
Not that fast. Well,
He was doing good there for a while.
Yep.
So I can put it up on the screen, or what I can do is after Michael sends me his copy, because he's making edits in there right now, I can add this language in there and then send it back out to the board. Whichever you would prefer.
I think it sounded great. I would love to just see that final version, but based on what you said, I think it sounds perfect.
Okay. And in fact, I think I can put it in chat since we do have a chat function on here.
There you go.
And then the next paragraph, we had a couple of typos, which it looks like you caught those as well. Pursuant and title.
And then in the next page, also things we had discussed in those December and January meetings with the language around program administration and reporting. And then that takes us back to the state template of what the subsequent year option letter renewal looks like. Which is basically just the cover page. Questions, comments, additional thoughts?
Thereof is spelled wrong.
Oh, sorry, go ahead, Matt.
Their ORF.
Yeah. We could run with it.
If we're asking Kristen to do a more in-depth review, but we would like the contract to go live June 1st, should we have maybe not a special meeting to approve? Or
Probably would not be a bad thing. Kirsten, question for you as far as the process. So with you taking another pass at it, Daryl talking to the state procurement about it, I assume therefore we should not, or it would be ill-advised for us to essentially vote to approve it today, or would that be an option with a motion being to include conditions for your approval, state procurement, contract approval?
Sure. I think with that much outstanding, we probably shouldn't vote on it. I think we would have to be so specific that it wouldn't make sense.
Okay. Is there any member of the board who would have a problem with another special meeting? And I will preface that with, I was going to suggest we might want one for the fiscal report anyway, depending on where that goes. So
I absolutely think it's likely that we'll need one for the financial report.
All right, so the next steps, I'll get this marked up version to Daryl and Kirsten for their processes and reviews. We will set up a special meeting where the agenda items, we'll formalize this at the end. We'll be asking for a special meeting.
There was
Anything?
some language, there was some language added in to one of the paragraphs that was describing the kind of the purpose of the funding for the resource center. Yeah, that. I could use that language with the red line in there. So I don't know if we have availability of this copy of the edited copy of the contract, or otherwise, if you can just cut and paste that first paragraph into a chat, I can do it that way.
Yes, I can, but how about also as, you know, I'll send it to Kirsten and Daryl and Sage can forward it. Or
Okay,
that's it.
okay, that'd be great.
All right. Anything else on this contract before we move on from there? All right. Lynn, would you like to kick us off on the financial report discussion?
I can do that. Am I able? Yeah, if we could share. There, I just sent the request.
Just accepted that request. So you should be good to go.
And I am working off of, I can move it. There we go. This is would have been the draft that includes Matt's edits. So let me make that a little bigger. Can everyone see that okay?
Looks
Yes,
good.
ma'am.
Thanks.
All good? Okay. So again, I just slept in here for now, not just temporarily, the statutory requirements of what we have to do. With probably where we'll spend most of the time is on this, how do we, back to our discussion, want to treat the requirement here for the budget for the following fiscal year. I don't know, and I apologize if people have not had time to go through it. I know this just went out day before yesterday, so. But it does say in here, it's got to include projected revenue and expenditures and proposed budget for the following fiscal year. So I don't know what exactly was in their mind. I kind of like Matt's idea of here's what we actually did, here's projected, and then here's the following year's proposal. But we can figure that out in maybe the sections that contain some of that. And then I just put in here that it was the fiscal year, the 20 for January 1 through December 31 of this year, our calendar year. And then revenue and expense projections for calendar year 2027. So it's kind of structured that way. We can certainly change it to be what folks would like it to be.
If you can,
Go ahead.
up to the very top of that page, there are a couple citations that need closing parentheses
Little prints, like right here.
right there, and then to the left of that one, the 9.
Whoops, sorry, wrong way. Oh, must be 129. Oh no, I'm sorry. And where else?
Up that line right above your cursor. So Submitted
Data
pursuant
for
to
the-
CRS 2911-108-9B.
Oh, here,
Uh,
this was duplicative. That's my problem.
that makes more sense.
Okay,
Well, that 9 still needs a closer.
oh, right here, got it.
And then in your first line of the executive summary, the General Assembly and the in accordance, I think and the can be removed.
Okay, this is part being submitted to members of the General Assembly. Oh, well, here, so I kind of had a question on this one.
Was that- Legislative Council, is that?
Prepare
Yeah.
an annual file report to these, so we probably don't even need this before it serves to the member. And probably
Actually,
could just,
that whole first phrase is kind of redundant with the last part of that sentence.
okay, so we can just say this report is being submitted in accordance with, how about that?
Yeah.
In accordance with this, which requires us to do this to these people. Does that work?
Looks
Thank
good.
you.
Okay. So then, moving on until you tell me to stop. So again, this just gets into, I kind of agree with Matt. I don't see a need to put names here, but I have seen names put in these before, so I didn't know if we wanted to put in who, for their purposes, to know that we've got good geographic coverage or not.
I would agree that I don't think it's necessary. They know how to find us if they need.
On the website, and I have links to the website in. Well, you know what, I'm just gonna get rid of it. And I'll pick up this. Okay.
In your B, board meetings and actions, our first
Mhm.
meeting, December 18th of 2024.
December, oh, we're earlier than I thought. December 18th, you said?
Correct.
Way to go, Michael, with the details.
I know,
Can do
because
something.
I did run into some issues looking for some documents and things like that. Then I try and go back to my notes and didn't always have it. I will just this note in here references back to the fact that there was some budget allocation in the bill. From what I understand, when Daryl and I met with Travis, the only monies that have been paid out so far have been for the AG's office and not anything else. But I'll shore up what really fun, I guess. And I think this matters no matter what. So are we thinking that it would be best to represent the revenues we've gotten and the any sort of payments we've made, like to the AG's office, through the end of May? And then vote on this thing in our June meeting with those May amounts in there? And I was trying to remember, one, when are we having our June meeting? And then two, when would we expect to get the next contributions into our account from the state, from Royal Loeb? So and I can't remember our discussion, would we end up with getting May contributions over to the board by kind of early June? Or do we want to just stick with money through April, or through April amounts?
So money collected by Roca Loeb in May, we will get around the middle of June.
So that wouldn't be enough time. So it seems like we would want to stay with any sort of money collected or dollars paid out through end of April.
As long as we're very clear on that, since we have in there that this is for the, fiscal year, I don't want there to be an assumption that it's at least projected through the end of June. So as long as, yes, particularly when we get to those tables, that it's very clear that it's through April, confirmed through April.
Okay. So I just need to, I don't like it when I try and add things to footnotes. I'm just gonna put it about documents. So I don't lose track of it.
I will note, we are getting close to 4. I want to be respectful of everybody's time. Everybody okay continuing for a little bit?
I'm good till a hard stop at 5 for another meeting.
Sage,
Yeah,
please.
and I thought,
I'm good.
yeah,
I'm
I'm
good.
probably good till 4:30.
I am good staying on for questions. I might have to multitask a little bit.
Thank you.
Okay, so the next section was in the board meeting and actions. I tried to go back and kind of put in the main kind of policies and accomplishments of the board.
Couple things here, your links to the website, that was the original. It was corrected. It still forwards, but the website is 911 Services Enterprise Board. 911 dash services dash enterprise. So just flip-flopping those 2 words in both of them.
Yeah, so the link that Michael put in the chat is the one we should probably use.
Can I even see the chat right now? I don't know that I can see the chat.
Well, it's the same as what you had. You just
There it is.
flip service.
Sorry. Okay, got it. All right. So I don't know if there are other milestones or policies, documents, or anything else to be included.
The only policy we've done is the document retention that we just passed previously. I know it's not online yet, but Sage, hopefully that's on your radar to get into that document section.
I'll do.
Thank you.
Okay. And I did put in here that we had approved the first 12-month budget in this amount, along with the implementation of the fee. I was not able to find these documents on the website, or maybe I just didn't know where to look. I had personally kept a copy of the memo we sent to the PUC on setting the fee at 3 cents. But I'm wondering if there's some documents we should have out there that are not there.
Probably not. I can forward that back to you.
Yeah, definitely. Just send me those documents and I should be able to add them to the website.
I don't know. Well, I'll look to see what I have. What I have is the fee memo to the PUC. I don't know if there was a different document that we reviewed that set the fee itself that the board did. And what was in the final budget one.
If I
So this-
remember correctly, that memo was the mechanism for setting and informing.
Okay.
Correct. If you
So I
want
don't-
something else to include, you could include the decision from the commission, which acknowledged the fee memo and included that in the state 911 surcharge.
Okay.
So Lynn, I can send you decision number.
Okay. Yep. And I think I did read it in preparing this, but I did not save it. So thank you. Okay. Just make a note.
I will apologize to you, and that's as far as I got in my review, going around the conference schedule.
I'm wondering if it would be most helpful if we jump to, I mean, a lot of this is just background stuff about the mechanism, and to the extent people can go through that and provide edits, that's great. But I think the primary thing I have two primary things I want to figure out. And I'll take the easier one first. I think the easier one. These are these 8 purposes, I guess you call them, are what they said the 911 Enterprise Board could fund. And we, so far, have only done the contract with the 911 Resource Center. I was interested in and trying to keep consistent with what did we consider which category it would fall into, the funding the Resource Center. Is it administrative expenses? Is it other items of benefit? Or do we consider it a grant?
See, I thought you were referencing the programs listed in the budget, not this. So my comment on
Well,
this.
I'm trying to, if we put something in here that says these are the kinds of things we can fund, then
Mhm.
whatever we fund should fit
Yep.
into one of these categories. So the
No.
budget does identify it as its own kind of line item
Mhm.
further down in the thing, but I was getting a little confused as to if someone asked us, which category does that project fit under?
2, number 2.
And I would say it fits largely under 7, which will also impact 1, 2, 4, 5.
Mhm.
Okay. Okay.
And Daryl has his hand up.
Yeah, I just want to point out that this list of categories, which is from the statute, was a list of examples of things that the enterprise could spend money on. It's not necessarily a exhaustive list.
Exhaustive?
What it does say
Oh.
is that you can only spend money on
Okay.
things that are allowed under section 2911-104, which is the same list of allowable expenses that the 911 governing bodies have to follow.
Would it be simpler to just say that instead of listing these and then opening the question? Or do we want to be informative?
Well, the other thing I was going to mention is that the requirements for this report in the statute are really short. There's a lot more to this draft report than is required by the statute. That's entirely up to you guys. If you know, as much information as you want to include, you certainly can. But you should be aware that you are sharing more than what the statute requires that you share. And if
Right.
there may be a risk of oversharing and opening up questions that you may not be ready to answer yet, since we're just now getting started.
I actually had the same feeling in general, but sort of went with the assumption that Lynn was, or the drafters were attempting to be
Yeah,
informative or extra informative.
I think I think we talked about this a little bit last time I asked the question and where we came out, but I am fine with deleting sections because I totally get what Daryl's saying is that this was the first report, and so it just provided some context for what you were going to be presenting to them from the budget standpoint as an initial matter and not necessarily something to repeat every year. But I certainly think if anything risks, going down a rabbit trail that we don't need to go down, or isn't helpful, that we just get rid of it.
Less is more, and we can always expand.
That would be
Yeah.
my recommendation. Go back through it and look for things that might not be necessary. Take them out
Okay.
or propose taking them out for discussion. I'm okay with either way. If you want to take a knife to it.
That was the first main one. And then the second one, the second big issue we were talking about earlier, on the contract is simply the budget. So let me scroll down to that. And Matt, I very much thought about putting the revenue and the expense part all together in one table. And then my brain was like, yeah, but now I got all these other sections that I got to revise if I do that, et cetera. But I can combine revenue and expense into one category. I think the primary thing we need to decide is what are we trying to represent in here, and given where we want to go with a fiscal year.
And I think that merging of A and B depends a little bit on whether or not you decide to do the 3 columns, prior year actual, current year projected, coming year proposed. Because if you lay it out that way, you're in effect kind of putting A and B side by side in columns. So if you don't take that approach, then I would be more okay with keeping them separate.
So far, our budget that was approved for a calendar year with a 9-month view. And that goes back up to this revenue piece of it, to come up with the $1.8 million. If we separate it out to just be fiscal year, then it would take 2026 just through June. I'm not quite sure how I am open to thoughts on how people want to do. And the other part of that question too is, in terms of doing projections, do we want to just assume leaving the 3% fee at the run rate it's currently at? Or the original thought was every penny got you, I want to say it was like $800,000, and that's how we ended up with our projected amount of money. And I know Daryl would expect that it's going to go up a bit. Our collections should go up a little bit, but I don't know if it's going to hit the level we expected.
I think it would be good to reassess that now that we see incoming funds, so that we can better base that on actual numbers.
Run rate.
Yeah, I guess that's
So
part of my request for another special meeting was going to come from was if we're also projecting out a budget for the next fiscal year 27, then we need to meet and discuss that to see, okay, we have what what you're showing on your screen already. We had originally planned that through essentially December of 2026. If we need to start looking longer than that as part of this report, then we need to meet and work through what that looks like. Essentially from
I have a question for Kirsten. Because it was, and I might have put a note in here to this extent. I know they want the next year's budget projection, but is it fair to, given where we're at with getting the board set up, what we do and don't know, and we've at least projected through the end of 26, if we change to fiscal year, that would give us at least kind of a known projection through the end of 26. So that would be part of the 27 fiscal year. And then make some statement to the effect of, we aren't at that point in our planning cycle yet to provide the second half fiscal information. So we don't have known numbers to give you. Or we put in to be determined or something. Are we allowed to do that? Or do we have to make up something for the rest of the 27 fiscal year?
I don't know of a reason why you couldn't just say to be determined, but I can look into that further.
It would make it to me, it would make it a lot easier and then it actually might be good to go to a fiscal year, because then we would at least say, this is what we've done to date. And then we still have half of the year that we would have at least had done some, because we did calendar year, we would have done some projecting for.
Sure. Matt might have a better answer or idea.
Matt's got his hand up.
Okay.
Just a spitball idea. Is there any reason why we can't adopt an amended budget, which also shifts to match the fiscal year? So we have a budget. Governments adopt amended budgets all the time. Could we not rework it, including changing the date from calendar to fiscal year?
And go through next June?
Yeah.
I don't see why not. My only other issue, so to speak, is because of the surcharge. How do we work that into this amended budget might look like? Are we, as part of this discussion, essentially talking about what the surcharge for calendar year 27 is going to be, as we're talking about what our budget for fiscal year 27 is going to be? So essentially, we're doing it all by June 30th instead of by October 1st.
I think you have a fund beginning balance for the amended budget that includes whatever's been received or projected to be received as of the start of the amended budget. And then you do projections, and that's what you put in your proposed column. that you then adopt for the 27 fiscal year.
But what do we put in for
So we've received money.
proposed revenues?
So we would have received money for a few months, right? By the time
Right.
the amended budget is adopted.
Right?
That's our beginning fund balance for the newly amended budget.
Mhm.
So it just means that we would have received revenue for a few months prior to the new budget that we would be operating on.
Daryl has his hand up.
So I think, Matt, your question, or I think Michael's question actually is, by setting a budget that goes through June 30th of 2027, does that mean that we're also having to decide what the surcharge rate is going to have to be for calendar year 2027? And I think that's true to an extent, although you don't have to, your projected budget or your proposed budget for the rest of this fiscal year does not necessarily tie your hands when October comes and you have to set the surcharge rate. If you guys decide it needs to be something different when you set the surcharge rate for calendar year 2027, you can still do that even if it differs from what you're putting in the proposed budget now.
So in one of my side comments on this draft, I wrote that we probably need to do that proposed budget that includes a proposed fee sufficient to support the proposed budget, which basically means, yeah, we got to decide that fee now.
And do we have, are we at risk if we have a proposed budget and we're just now at the point of getting the application form out there and taking applications and everything? Do we want to see what people submit back prior to putting in place a proposed budget and therefore a fee and everything, or not? I don't
think
know.
we have that luxury this early in the enterprise's history. I feel like we already have a general sense, and we probably should move ahead with this change.
So at this point, would it make sense to have a special meeting just to do the amended budget in the meantime? Because we have till June 30th to submit this. So even if we go through our June meeting and then we have to have another special meeting for purposes of this document, we could probably do that. But so does it make sense to have a special meeting to go through an amended budget, get that all set and change over to the fiscal year and get through June of 2027? In the meantime, I can make miscellaneous changes to this document and get it ready. And then once we have that amended budget, go in and finish updating this document with the budget dollars and decisions that came out of that meeting.
I think that makes sense. Amy?
So just to make sure I understand, are we talking about amending the current budget to be fiscal year 26? And then proposing a fiscal year 27 budget? Is that what the budget we're amending, would it be like to cover the last, January 1st through June 30th this year?
I think it would have to be a split. Amendment would have to be a split to account for fiscal year 26, part of it into fiscal year 27, and then additional discussion around what the rest of fiscal year 27 looks like.
Oh.
So in essence, we're reporting on fiscal year 26 and our
And-
proposed budget for fiscal year 27,
Correct.
state fiscal year.
Yes.
Okay. All right, so with that, it's a lot to think about, a lot to put together. Does it make sense to continue here now? Do you have any other major
I
questions?
don't, no. Yeah, I don't have any, I don't think there was anything else major here.
Shall we choose a date for a special meeting?
Sounds good.
Yes, Matt.
I'm curious how much time Lynn needs to be ready for a special meeting.
I don't, for this initial one, I don't think a lot because mostly what I'm gonna do just at this point is look through it more generally for purposes of sections we don't need and kind of firming that up. And then the rest of it'll just be formatting, awaiting whatever we decide in this
Okay.
meeting. So I'm probably gonna need more time after than before. So I think probably the sooner the better with a meeting.
And then Kirsten and staff or others regarding the contract, if we want to address that at our next meeting while we're at it. Or should we hold off on that?
This is Daryl. I can get the conversation started with Dora Contracting, but I unfortunately don't have a lot of control over their ability to respond.
They move at the speed of government.
It depends on how, if there's one contract officer for all of Dora, which has 1,000 employees, so they get a little bogged down sometimes.
Yeah, danger. All right, so that's tentative.
And I apologize, what was the suggested date, or were we just discussing how long?
That was the question
Okay.
as far as your review of that contract language, do you have a date either, earlier or later? How much time would you need before we can come back and ask you relevant questions or, you weigh in?
Yeah, I should have time to get through it in about a week.
3 o'clock on the 20th or sooner. 20th is Wednesday. 13th.
I'm good with the 13th.
That's only a week. Sorry. It's like the voice of God.
So that may be enough for Kirsten, but probably not for Daryl.
That's okay though.
We do have other things to talk about.
Yeah.
So what I would propose as far as our agenda items, anything we can from the contract, the budget amendment as far as what a fiscal year 26 and a fiscal year 27 would look like. So I would say budget amendment and budget setting. And I would like us to be in compliance with ourselves. So I would also like to bring the bylaws amendment, switching from a calendar year to a fiscal year as well.
Mm-hmm.
Are we gonna need more than an hour?
Probably should talk more than an hour.
Well, and something else, Lynn, is that would it be feasible for you to get something to us in advance of the meeting?
Yes.
Okay.
I
So
will
we
try
can-
and do that worst case by the 11th.
Awesome. Thank you.
Mhm.
So Wednesday the third.
Doing that, sorry.
Daryl,
Do it again.
do you have something to say, sir?
Go ahead.
So Wednesday, the 13th, 3 to 5. We'll have those 3 items on the agenda. We can certainly table for additional special meetings if we are unable to get through a complete, particularly as we know, with the contract being up in the air, and we want to have a lot of meaningful and mindful conversations around budget. Did you have additional to add to that, sir?
I was just going to ask Sage if she had everything she needed to set that up.
Yes, I just checked the Zoom account and it's free, so I'll make sure to set that up shortly after this meeting. And I'll put it on the public calendar as well.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And as far as the budget information for that meeting, do you want to see it as it might be represented in the financial report, or just, kind of a template for how we might talk about the budget like we previously set the budget?
For
What's
me, I
easiest?
talk about it in our own terms first, and then we
Okay.
apply to the report.
Okay.
Matt, I saw you
Okay.
come. Did you have a different thought?
Yeah, Lynn, were you thinking that the proposed budget should be and what do they call it, an addendum to the report? You had
Well,
there was an email
I-
or something that talked about addendums.
yeah, I mean, I think, no, I think we'll represent, I think, directly those budget numbers in the report itself, and just maybe make mention of the fact that we amended the initial budget and attach whatever the amended budget document is.
Mhm.
We can think about that. It will be I think, just like we set the first document and approve the first document, there needs to be that official document amending it.
Mhm.
And yeah, we can attach that. And I think then what I'll just represent in the final report is the amended part.
Sounds
Right?
great. Yeah, sounds good.
Okay. To try and not confuse them or cause any questions to be asked.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. Thank you. Lynn, thank you for getting that all started and all the work.
Sorry, I didn't come to these conclusions last month.
No,
Yeah,
first year, we live and we learn.
that's right.
All right. Then, unless there are any objections, we can move on to board comments. Anything else for the good of the order?
Thank you, Lynn.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks for helping me along here. Kind of a one-off from my normal day job, so.
All right, then we will meet next at our special meeting on the 13th, perhaps some more before our next regular meeting on June 3rd. And unless there's anything else, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Matt seconds.
Thank you, Lynn and Matt. Everybody have a great day at 4:30.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank
See
you.
y'all.
Take care, everyone.